But yeah, today, Bowmore 12 single malt Scotch whiskey from Islay. And this is a special version of the Bowmore 12. This is a sherry oak cask Bowmore 12. So Bowmore 12 is a Suntory Global Spirits product. And of course, this is an Islay single malt Scotch whiskey. This particular bottle is at 40% alcohol, or 80 proof. It is chill filtered and does have color added. And this bottle is 12 years in first and second fill ex-bourbon and ex-sherry. So ex-bourbon, ex-sherry, first and second fill, vatted, and then refinished in another new ex-sherry Oloroso barrel. This is roughly 25 ppm in terms of how peated it is. So it's not as peated as the super heavily peated Scotch whiskeys, but it's not lightly peated either. I usually call this like medium peated. It's a good peat level. You definitely get the peat in it. And of course, Bowmore is the oldest distillery on Islay. And again, it has like half the ppms of some of the really peated stuff. But yeah, so this is a limited kind of bottling where they've refinished, I think, their typical 12-year-old release in extra sherry. So we'll see. I've already rated the 12-year Bowmore, and it's like, okay, it's not my favorite. It's a little thin. Again, 40% alcohol leaves it a little thin. And this is also 40% alcohol. So the worry for me, I guess, is despite the fact that they took extra care to put more barrel impact into this, that it's still 40% alcohol and it won't be that robust in terms of flavors. But here we are, giving it a second go, I suppose, in some ways. This cork is suspect. And by that I mean it doesn't feel right. Like I'm worried it's going to break. So I like to just pop these and make a big pop, but actually that was a pretty good pop considering I was being gentle. I can kind of tell that this cork is prone to being broken. So we're going to have to take it easy on that. All right. Boom. So here we are. Oh, don't need that. It's interesting. This says on here, distribution Madrid, Spain. And it has some words in what I would assume would be German. I wonder if this is intended to be a European release. Either way. Here's the coloration here again. It should be darker than your typical 12-year Bowmore, but at the same time, we know that Bowmore tends to use E150 caramel coloring as they are allowed to maintain the consistency of their product. So I can't tell you if this color means anything, but there's your color. Again, it's kind of like not quite bourbon brown, but it's a darker coloration here. We're going to give this just a minute to kind of rest in the glass. It is a fresh open. But it is only 40% alcohol, so we don't probably need to give it too much time. I will say, just by analyzing the legs on the glass here, that they are quite fast running and a little bit on the thick side. So it's not going to be the thickest whiskey, but we kind of already know that when we're dealing with something with 40% alcohol, that it's going to be a little bit on the thinner side of the viscosity. So we're just giving it about a few minutes to chill out, and then we'll get into it. That's interesting. So the Pete character isn't like super duper readily apparent. What we're gonna do actually, before I forget, is we might pour some of this regular 12 just to see how we feel about it in comparison. As far as I know, this is just this with more sherry in it. But I'm not getting like that super duper strong peat element. Like again, we describe on this bottle, for example, as something that's like slightly smoky black rubber hockey mat, like a black rubber or kind of tar kind of aroma. I'm actually not really getting much of that. There's a little bit of it, but the sherry influence is a lot clearer, I think, on this bottle, which would make sense. That being said, it doesn't like hit exactly like raisins and dates like would be typical of a sherry, like a heavily sherried whiskey. It's kind of a little different. There is kind of a toasted malt element to it. We're kind of getting some of that malt component. The aroma is not the strongest. I wish it kind of was like a little stronger. But you can really tell like the sherry has had a bigger impact, but I'm trying to really describe how different it is compared to like a typical like raisin dates fig kind of aroma, but it's hard to say. It's kind of like you can tell there's like a deeper red sweetness to it. It's like a dried fruit for sure. But it's not like super distinct. It kind of feels like there's a dried red fruit element, but not obviously raisin. Like you could go somewhere else, like you could say maybe something like dried plum. Like I don't hate that. There's a bit of spice to it too. Again, there's like a darker, richer sherry presence than I remember on the typical 12. And it's like a lot more red fruit, a lot sweeter, but it's not, again, I wouldn't call it raisin. I don't hate dried plum, but it's not quite right. I'm not quite getting exactly. We'll work on that. All right, so Bowmore 12 Sherry Oak edition here on the palate. Slashava. Definitely still Bowmore on the palate. It is fairly smoky. You do get like some of that black rubber kind of character. There's a campfire essence on the finish. Some of that charred log creosote. A little bit spice from like the sherry related spice notes. The palate is not super impressive, and this is something that I already kind of know from Bowmore 12. This one, 40% alcohol. I was kind of hoping this might fix a little bit, because it just is a little lacking, a little thin on the palate. And it's just slightly too diluted, I think. 43 or 46% alcohol, I think would really help. And despite the fact that this has been refinished in some additional sherry, just hasn't really gotten that concentration of flavors to really burst on the palate in the way that I was kind of hoping. I think a little bit of like protein related notes on the aroma. And on the palate again, it's like some darker, there's some darker sweetnesses in there. There's some of that kind of like smoke and tar element, kind of consistent with like that kind of tarry Bowmore character. A little bit of darker spices. It is much more sherry forward in terms of like, we'll say, notes like dark toffee or spices, or like maybe getting almost even to coffee on the finish. But still is a little shy on the palate for my preference. So we're going to pour the 12 regular in another Glen here, and we'll do a side-by-side comparison and just see how we feel about the two. All right, so we'll push this over a little bit. So this is kind of like the comparison I think everyone would probably want to make with this bottle. What is it like compared to like the regular 12? So we have a bottle of regular 12 here. It's been open for a bit, but it's not gonna be that big of a deal. All right, so boom. A little bit lighter in color, so we'll show you the colors here. So here's the two. Again, the Bowmore Sherry Oak is on your right, and the Bowmore 12 regular is on your left. So you can tell this one is a little bit darker in color. Not by a lot though. Is that bacon? That's right. You want a pairing? We can do a pairing. You gotta get you a wife that'll randomly make you bacon. Okay? Those of you who are single out there. Even if it means she's trying to kill you and get your life insurance by giving you a heart attack, it's worth it. Oh, so good. Applewood smoked. So good. All right, so again, this is the Sherry Oak. Again, that kind of like typical Bowmore smoky character is hitting kind of more present now, more of that like kind of rubberiness with like some of that sweet sherry, dried red fruit. That sweetness is really kicking up now that we've had some time with it. So this one is the 12 regular. Oh, way more on the like vanilla. Oh, it's actually so much more vanilla. like vanilla and a little bit of brighter fruits on this one. Yeah, the one thing that really pops out about the 12 regular compared to the sherry oak is like the bourbon barrel vanilla, which there is still ex-bourbon barrels in the 12 sherry oak, just they've been refinished, whereas they haven't been refinished here, so they're going to be way more obvious, those bourbon notes. It's so much more vanilla. That being said, is it richer? Again, this 12, mostly vanilla, a little bit of that, like Bowmore, kind of rubbery, kind of campfire note. You get a little bit more flavor expression on the nose from the 12 sherry oak, but not by a lot. And of course, it's more sherry, you know, dried red fruits, dark toffee sweetness in aroma, but it's not that much stronger. The vanilla is definitely more apparent on the regular 12, though. All right, so let's sample again the 12 sherry oak. Kind of try to do our best with the palate here, even though it's a little bit thin. You get some of that like dark toffee kind of sweetness, transitions into a little bit of like spiciness, and then the back of the palate, some more of that kind of like smoky, charry Bowmore character, maybe a little bit of earthiness at the very end. All right, so now the 12 regular. A lighter, kind of more malty sweetness on the 12 regular. The smoky component is not as strong, it feels like. The earthiness is not as strong, it feels like. They're the same, as far as I can tell, the same whiskey at 40% alcohol, but that being said, you know, some of the barrel selection might have been better for the 12 sherry oak. It's possible. The 12 sherry oak does come across as a richer, more flavorful of the two. And I don't even really get any of that like bourbon character popping on the palate of the 12 regular. I don't really get like an orchard fruit or like this sort of idea. Maybe like more on the fruity characters since it's not as steeped in sherry related barrels. So between the two, it's pretty clear that the sherry oak is like a better product despite it being still 40% alcohol and the same age statement. Probably there's a better curation of casks that went into it, and that's why they got to charge a little bit more, I suppose. It is a solid uptick in my opinion between the two, but it's still light on the palate. It's still like not as strong as I would hope, and that's kind of like where we come to. We just got in, I suppose, the 15. So we'll try this 15, probably compare it with the 12 regular. I could, in theory, compare it with the 12 sherry oak too, but we're kind of hoping that 15, again, 3 more years, and this is 43% alcohol, slightly more ABV, slightly more age. These offerings at 12 years from Bowmore, man, I just wish they would like tune it up a little bit. Like, I love the distillate. I love what they produce from the still at Bowmore, but these 12-year-old OB offerings are really not quite it. And I'm kind of worried a little bit that this one is not it either. Like maybe you have to go as high as 18 years to really get what you wanted of this distillery. But we'll see. Like I said, we'll see. It's not bad. It's just A little light, you know, it's a little light.